Hello my friends, don't worry, there's nothing wrong with this video, no need to adjust your monitors. I've actually traveled back in time to 1982, the year that I was born. It's a good time to be alive. Michael Jackson just put out Thriller, E.T. is currently playing in theaters everywhere, everybody's happy, everyone's wearing colorful clothing, and let's face it, as far as hairstyles and fashion go, it was truly the greatest decade of all time. Look, here's a picture of me in the late 80s having an awesome day. Yes, that's actually me. Alright, I'm messing with you. Let me fix this, one sec. So, unfortunately, it is the year 2022, and the world is falling apart, but the good news is that the 80s is still cool. And synthwave music, it turns out, is incredibly popular and is a very licensable genre. How do I know this? Well, I put it to the test. In May, I uploaded my very first synthwave track to Motion Array. It's called Lotus 89. I named it after the very popular racing game for the Amiga 500 called Lotus, which I used to play a lot when I was a kid. To my great surprise, this track ended up being a bestseller on Motion Array for that month, resulting in a really great payout for the month, and I even had someone reach out to me personally and ask me if I could write more music in this style. So of course I got right to work on that, and I composed another track called Neon Utopia, which just went live online, and you can check that out on my profile if you want. Now in today's video, I'm going to outline some synthwave basics. I'm going to show you around my composing template. I'm going to show you some of the synths and the sounds that I use for these types of tracks. And if you want the full experience, of course, you got to check out productionmusicacademy.com, where I keep all of my course content under one roof. I just launched the Synthwave course. That's the course for September, which details my writing, mixing, and mastering process for the track Neon Utopia. And I've also included a detailed breakdown of Lotus 89, as well as a sample and MIDI pack to get you started on your synthwave journey. Those links are all in the description below. I'd love to have you in the community. We've got over 100 members in there now. We're all having a ton of fun, and this coming Wednesday, I'm going to be showcasing everybody's submission from last month's challenge, which is writing hip-hop. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, so what do we need to write synthwave? Let's check it out. So you're looking at my synthwave composing template here. Basically, it's just a collection of my favorite sounds. I'm using a lot from the Arturia V collection. Basically, the CS80, the DX7, and the Jupiter 8 are my go-tos. I have a few Omnisphere patches loaded up here and a few Logic patches. By the way, for all you Logic users out there, there's some great stock patches that come with Logic that are really well suited for synthwave. I'm using a couple here, the Moving Fuzz and 70s Analog Lead. So let's throw something real simple together here, just for fun. I'll start with my CS80 here, see what we can come up with. Something kind of positive, uplifting. Let's throw it down. Here we go. Let's just quantize that. I'll duplicate that patch, and I'm going to separate the chords from the lead here. Let's use one of these Omnisphere ARPs that I got loaded up. Maybe this one here. That could add a nice texture. Let's do that. Okay, sure, that works. Let's just copy out what we have here so far, and I'll just kind of craft a little intro together. Before we do that, let's just come up with a bass line here. I'm using a combination actually of the Jupiter 8 and a Logic patch called Muted Bass. Let's record a bass line. Here we go. Okay, I'm just gonna quantize that. Let's copy that out, and maybe we'll just leave this out of the intro. I have a couple of track stacks loaded up here in Logic for arpeggios. So when I'm playing all of these patches loaded up in this stack, for example, in ARP1 here, and I use the mod wheel to release some of the filters on the synths, then it works really well. Let's just write a little arpeggio pattern and see what we can do here. Okay, let me just adjust that. Let's take a look at this MIDI. Let's copy this MIDI pattern out a bit. I'm going to transform this MIDI into fixed velocity and fixed length, just so everything sounds nice and even. And let's copy this out. And let's record in some modulation here. Okay, cool. We can see our modulation there. And I'm just going to flatten that out, starting at bar 9. And I can also draw in some automation for the auto filter here, just to kind of exaggerate what we're doing with the modulation as well. So let's just do that real quick. Let's change this to touch. And we could even draw in a little volume automation as well. Let's load up a drums patch here. I've been using Real Machines from Addictive Drums. This is something that I bought as part of a package, and honestly, I never used it for the longest time until now. A couple really cool patches here that work well for synthwave. Very 80s. Let's punch in some drums here real quick. Here we go. And we can also punch in some like tom fills here. Okay, let's use this Jupiter patch. It's called Bells. I love this patch for writing top line melodies. Let's just come up with something real quick, starting at bar 9 here. Okay, something like that. Try not to overthink this. Okay, let's copy that melody MIDI into this melody group here, which again is just a track stack using one of Logic's stock presets here and another patch from the DX7. Okay, let's throw a few transition effects in the mix, maybe a few samples to thicken out the drums, and see where this takes us. Just a couple simple loops to flesh out the beat. Got a noise riser throughout this intro, got a little transition swell, some claps soaked in reverb, a noise downer, a little drum fill I pulled from Splice, as well as a little synth downer. And I did a little extra automation volume-wise with some of these synth patches. So just kind of building intensity throughout the first 8 bars here in our intro before we slam into, I guess you could call it the chorus, starting at bar 9 here. It sounds like this. So obviously, it's a really rough idea, not very refined, but I came up with it very quickly, and having the patches and the processing kind of already dialed in my template here really helps with the speed at which I can kind of just throw ideas down and they already sound sort of in the ballpark where I want them to be. I'm not going to get into all the specifics of my processing. That's something that I explain in detail in the course. For this quick YouTube video, I thought it'd be fun to just throw down a quick idea, put my template to the test, show you what kind of sounds I'm working with. And I should mention also that the sky's the limit in terms of like how processed and how 80s and how vintage you want to get with your productions. I tend to incorporate more modern production elements in my synthwave tracks. I think that's a pretty good strategy for success on music libraries. There's definitely a temptation to go overboard and make it sound like really affected, like really, really vintage and thin and like 80s style. But what I'm doing here is really just taking inspiration from the sounds of these classic 80s synths and giving that sort of like a modern production makeover. And I think that if you listen to synthwave on like Spotify, or if you listen to it on music libraries, then you'll see that there's quite a variance in terms of how like modern the drums sound, for example, or how lo-fi the mix is overall. Most of the synthwave tracks that I've worked on so far are pretty high energy, up tempo, feel good, and uplifting. I think that's just again what makes for a more licensable track overall. I think that the fun part about writing synthwave is that we can sort of take some liberties in terms of like vintageifying sounds. I don't know if that's a word, but it is now. I used to use RC20 a lot to get that sort of tape emulation effect, but lately I've been using Sketch Cassette a lot. I just love this plugin. It's a great little tool for dialing in that tape saturation, the hiss, the tape wobble, that kind of thing. So all this is to say I've been having a great time writing synthwave this last month. I've been diving deep into the 80s nostalgia. I'm just remembering playing, Commodore 64 and Amiga when I was a kid and just having the greatest time. I love that stuff. Excellent! I'm going to write a few more synthwave tracks this month. I'm going to submit them to Artlist. I'll let you know how that goes. Interesting to note is that I did actually register the Lotus 89 track with Content ID and saw that a lot of gaming streamers were using it, which is cool to see and interesting. And yeah, some of these videos actually had like a ton of views on them. So I'm hoping that that'll continue to generate some income for me. Always kind of a surprise that some of these YouTubers aren't bothering to clear the claims on their videos, but it is what it is. I also saw that someone else used my synthwave track to promote some NFTs. That's kind of cool. This month's challenge in the Academy is going to be scoring some 80s footage that I put together. I'm really excited to showcase that. And yeah, I guess September is 80s month. So let me know in the comments if you've written any synthwave yourself. Let me know if you've had any luck with it on music libraries. Let me know if you've got any favorite synthwave artists, and yeah, let me know if you have any favorite analog synths that you use that I should know about. Or just drop a hello in the comments and let me know how you're doing. It's always good to hear from you guys. If you want to level up your music production game and get started in the sync licensing biz, make sure to check out productionmusicacademy.com. And also, as always, be sure to tune in to the Make Music Income podcast, which I co-host with my friend Eric Copeland. Speaking of which, episode 38 will be premiering right after this video, I think at 11 Eastern time. So I'll be hanging out for that premiere. I'll be in the chat. Come say hello. We're going to be discussing all the things that you can do for just one track to start monetizing and promoting and getting your music out into the world for everyone to hear it. So in the meantime, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, share, do all the things, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.